and we're talking about Brazil, directed by Terry Gilliam from 1985. So this is a film that is set somewhere in the 20th century. It starts at around 8:49 p.m. It's Christmas time. We're in a garish neon future. Some describe as a retro future. And this is a story about a man named Sam Lowry. And him living in a sort of like world that is just like a bureaucratic nightmare. Not dissimilar from that of 1984. But probably a little bit sillier. It's a slapstick version of George Orwell's 1984.
Right.
So this is a story about a man without much ambition, and he works for the Ministry of Records, and he's very good at his job, but he just kind of wants to have this very easy job that he's kind of mastered. He's learned everything that there needs to be. People can rely on him. He can kind of feel like he has a sense of place in that regard, but he doesn't really want to go anywhere from that point, much to the chagrin of his mother, who is kind of like part of the higher like status within the society.
Socialites?
Yeah, socialite within this weird like kind of mishmash of like, I don't know, like this fascist sort of government that's taken power. And like she wants him to move ahead. So I don't know, for status, for those obvious sort of things. And he doesn't want anything to do with that. He just wants to have time to daydream about a fantasy life. And that's all he kind of wants. And then one day he actually sees the woman from his dreams that he's been having, him being this sort of like fantasy angel figure battling demons and monsters, shit like that. And to save this woman, this damsel in distress, who he actually gets to see in real life. This is all a result of a clerical error that happens within this bureaucratic world, involving a fly falling into a typewriter, where a man's name of Harry Tuttle, it changes from Tuttle to Buttle. And so the wrong man, Harry Buttle, is redacted or didacted. He gets black-bagged, taken away by a menacing SWAT team, and questioned, and in the process dies. And this creates a problem within the system, which is supposedly going to be infallible, and probably spreads the word that it's perfect and there's no problems with it. Now they've made a mistake, all because of one little mistake. And so Sam Lowry kind of gets involved with this and trying to fix this mistake to keep the system running and going. And this kind of collides with the story with the girl that he's trying to find her name because she's the girl from his dream. And Robert De Niro appears. He is the actual Harry Tuttle that the government is looking for, because he's sort of I guess someone would argue a terrorist. But what it is he's like a terrorist to the system, this idea that the system works in a particular way. Everything has to be ordered, and things have to be done with the proper forms and permissions. He's just like, no, you can just get things fixed really easily. And so his thing is like he kind of throws like, I guess, the wrench in the works. He's a disruptor. He's what would be the word for it? A subversive. And so now we get to watch this movie of Sam Lowry, who is an unambitious man, turn into one with some ambition, even if it's kind of at times misguided and like mistimed. Yeah, and we get to see sort of this dark world play out this against this backdrop of like amazing production and like set design and art design. And just like the ridiculous imagination of Terry Gilliam to make a movie this like large in scope. Yeah. So I don't know. I love this movie. I watched this movie years ago there was like the 3-disc DVD set that this came out on back in like, I guess like the late 90s, 2000s. My buddy Corey, he bought this, loved this movie, always talked it up. I borrowed it from him. I also fell in love with this movie. And just like, I love the story. It's like, just like, I don't know, it's a very romantic story and also a very dark and depressing story, which is refreshing for like this sort of thing. I guess at one point it was. Maybe now everything's got kind of downbeat endings, which I think kind of drives people crazy these days. But here it's like so good and like just like unnerving and affecting. Yeah, and so I mean, it's actually been a long time since I've seen Brazil. I had upgraded my 3-disc DVD that was like non-anamorphic, it looked like crap, to the Blu-ray, and hadn't watched it yet. So dusted it off for this show and watched it, and I still love this movie a whole bunch. It's not a perfect movie. There's like things like it is like it's like 2.5 hours long. You can't just you can't just breeze through it any old time. It could have. I mean, it's imperfect, but I think there's so much good stuff in here that I don't know. I wouldn't want to take it out, which is something we'll talk about because one particular producer at Universal, when they went to distribute this film, wanted to chunk out about 40 minutes. But yeah, I totally love this movie. It's like one of the best movies Criterion's ever done. Actually, I think there's the one list I saw on Letterboxd. It's like they compiled all of like those like top 10 movies from directors, like for like what their top 10 Criterions are. And I think weighing everything, Brazil's number one when everyone just talks about this movie. And I think for someone wanting to be a director or a filmmaker, like I don't know how you couldn't love this movie. It should be like everything people aim for in making movies, because it's got this kind of, it's a story told inventively, unlike other stuff. It's like building on like stuff we saw in Time Bandits, as far as just like visual flair and like the tone and stuff like that. Like Terry Gilliam's all in place there. This is him kind of working at his like probably most like kind of still close to the world that he was kind of doing in Time Bandits and like the Monty Python sort of sensibilities, because like it's a very different Terry Gilliam that starts making movies like 12 Monkeys and Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas in the 90s. But yeah, I think this might be his best movie, but yeah, I don't know, that's how I feel about this movie. Not going too much into my notes right now, but RJ, how do you feel about that Brazil?
Brazil sucks. Nah, I'm just kidding. Yeah, this movie rules with a Z. It's super good. 2 Zs actually.
Whoa.
Because there's one in Brazil.
Yeah.
Yep. This movie fucking rocks for all the reasons you said, and that's my review.
Wow.
And I like it for a lot of the same reasons, like what you said, art and set design, and just the kind of image, like his imagination, what he puts down, like things that I wouldn't really think about, but once you see them, it's like it seems obvious. Do you know what I mean? It's like I never thought of that, but it's right there. It's like, well, how could you not have? It's just right there. So I think that's like a really special thing that he does.
Is there anything in particular that you're thinking of when you say
I'm
that?
thinking, yeah, like the baby demons. When he's daydreaming, and so they're like really spiny, and they have like the really thin cloth on them, and they got those long necks, and then they have the baby faces. So he kind of does that in Time Bandits too, with like the birds.
Yes, the bird.
They're like
the weird
bird faces,
or their skulls. They're like bull skulls. They're like
yeah. They're like the skulls. So I think
very
like,
similar, and they're in shrouds. I think that's
exactly.
like I mean that's like very I think drawing on like that art history, because like when I think of like Goya drawings, I think of like these like weird like multiple figures and they're in shrouds, and like it's like such a simple thing. It's like, well, I don't want to have to produce like this undercarriage of what these things look like, so you drape them and hide them, so it's like it's just a guy wearing like with some poles inside, and you can disguise a lot by doing that. But it also, I don't know, it's definitely a thing that like I think a lot of people have been influenced by. Like people rip off that now all the time.
Oh yeah.
Like how to make minions and you have them like all like stooped over and stuff like that. But like Brazil, when they do it, you're like, it's really exciting and it seems fresh. And like the baby faces, which is like which I always found interesting, because like it turns out, oh no, that's exactly what Michael Palin, like what Jack Lint wears during the interrogations, is that exact baby mask, which is like, so is that something that like he just happened to dream upon and came across in his mind, or is that
I thought about that, because like he is in his office and he sees the mask at one point, but it's after he dreams about it. So the way I interpreted it was that he is aware of what goes on in there, and he's seen the mask before, because I thought the same thing, because when I saw it, or when I watched, because this was a rewatch for me.
Yeah.
When I saw the demons in the daydream, I was like, oh, I was like, I didn't piece it together last time. Maybe I did. I just forgot that that's what it turns out to be later on.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was watching for it. And then when he goes to the office, he sees it. So it could be that maybe like it could be that he knows kind of how it works, because that's another thing that's really great about this movie is I think like the obvious 1984-esque stuff, or the style with the bureaucracy, and then the people who are just kind of complicit with like the terrorist attack and how the government is run, because like you just kind of have to be. So like I think maybe that's part of it, is like everyone, like, you know what I mean, like everyone's just complicit with it, where they have that great scene where there's a terrorist attack and they set up the the blinds, like the shutters, so that you can't see it, and then like once it, like everyone just ignores it. It's like, oh well, it's terrorists, the government will deal with it. Right. So maybe they do know about the babyface people, but it wouldn't matter. Like if you do know that stuff, it's not going to change that it happens. So
yeah. Actually,
maybe that's what it is.
Maybe just step back for a sec. So how did you first hear about Brazil as a movie viewer?
Well, I knew about Terry Gilliam.
Yeah.
Because I knew the Monty Python stuff. I had a friend of mine. She's really into that Monty Python. She talked about it a lot. I think maybe she mentioned Brazil to me, and then you mentioned it also. Mm-hmm. So I had two people talking to me about Brazil, because I've seen other, like Dr. Parnassus.
Yeah.
And Tideland, one of the worst movies ever.
Yeah.
So I've seen like his later day stuff,
yeah.
but I hadn't actually watched a lot of his like amazing movies. So I think it was two parts you, 2 parts her, and then 1 part fun, because I was just looking for fun.
Well, because you watched this movie for the first time, was it last year?
Yeah, it was last year, maybe 2 years ago. But yeah, I got the Criterion Blue because it was available, and I was like, hot damn. So I got that bad boy, and I ripped her on. I had no idea about all the scene cuttings and things like that. Which we'll get to. I heard that afterwards, but yeah, no, I think it was just recommended a lot to me by various people that I don't trust their opinion of at all. So, but no, yeah, it's great. Like, he does such a good job. I think in some parts he does the Orwell thing better than Orwell does. In some parts, and then some parts it doesn't. Like, I like his humor, but sometimes the slapstick stuff, I can see where it would be too much. Like, when they add music cues to it, I think that sometimes for me, I think it loses me a little bit, but like, it doesn't take me out of it. I can see where other people would be like, oh, I don't like that. Like, it's so goofy. Like, so I can see that. And then like what you're saying, it's not perfect. The only thing that loses me at all is, I think the car chase, when he actually finds the girl and they're in the car chase,
and they're blowing their way through the city.
Yeah, that's the only thing that loses me, and I'm like, you could probably take that out. Like, I see where it adds to it, but I think you could shorten it up a little bit. Like, I don't think that Brazil needed this chase scene, but that's just me.
Right.
That's just me, man. I think he does a few things that are like really good, where he shows like the citizens, or like the actual people's opinions and their personalities within the government bureaucracy. So the one point he really does it good is where it's the SWAT riot people after after the bomb blows up, and then they're in like the meat wagon with all the people hanging up, and Sam's just like knocked out, and then he just stumbles on the SWAT guys just having a casual conversation
about sweaty brows, and then
they're
talking about his eyebrows and how it pushes it toward your ears.
Yeah, because I think that's such a good scene, because that's how people really are. Like, you know, those Abu Ghraib guys who like photographed all those prisoners naked. But I bet after they did that, they're like, oh man, I could really use a Sprite, or like, you know, just like really weird normal conversation, because that's how people are.
Well, that's like a lot of the as we'll find out in a couple months here when we watched Life of Brian. There's a lot of that. Like, I mean, it's a very Monty Python-esque type of scene where it's like, because throughout the whole movie, you see all these characters as just sort of these like faceless SWAT team monsters that just like they don't give a fuck about anything. They're on the job, but then you see them behind masks. It's like, yeah, no, they're just like working class blokes, and they just have mundane, boring conversations about things. Even though it's like, oh, we're in this vehicle with like 20 people, like in like. Yeah, they're have masks over their faces, and they're like in like straight jackets, and they're just hanging off of chains, and they're just chatting away like this is just another day.
Exactly. Because and like it's funny to see that, but at the same time, it's like, yeah, that's. I think that's how some stuff like that actually would go. That's how people are. So I think he does really good job like that. And then what I was saying earlier, where I think he does certain Orwellian things better than Orwell does, is like there's one line when he's talking to his information retrieval guy and friend, and he's like, "This is information retrieval. We're making the connections to the problem or something." And that really grabbed me this time. I was like, making the connections. I was like, that's a pretty topical thing for government nowadays, making these connections, you know? So I was like, I like that. I think I just have a few more things to say. I think that so he sets up the daydreaming really good, where there's always these kind of, it comes in intervals where you're shown like his daydreams and how he's interpreting what he actually experiences, and then it's relived or wish fulfillment, I guess, through his daydreams.
Yeah.
And then not like just a slight spoiler, I guess, but like in the ending, even though you're presented with all these daydreaming things and like you know what's happening, I think the end is still a surprise. Like up until a point, like when the newspaper stuff starts happening, that's I think when you realize you're like, oh, okay. But I think he does it. Yeah, he does it. He sets it up so well that even though you know it's all kind of coming, it's still a surprise, which I think really shows how well put together the movie is.
Did you watching that scene now with like the scene with like when De Niro is like they're running through like the street, and then like and they kind of split up, and then the newspapers come blowing, and they enthrall Tuttle, and he blows away inside of the paper or whatever. The only thing I was really aware of, I'm like, oh man, it's the Red Shoes.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Because at the newspaper garbage man.
Yeah.
I honestly, I didn't even piece it together.
No, because it's like very similar scene, because it's also like during that scene, it's like a phantasmagorical sequence that's like, and it's like, it was like kind of like also supposed to be like in a busy area, because like her boyfriend kind of like, he gets flattened out into a piece of paper and gets trampled on. This is like kind of slightly different, but very like reminiscent, because it's supposed to be kind of like a dream sequence almost. But yeah, no, that was good. And yeah, actually watching this time too, it really drove home. There's like the, I think I dropped this the other week when we were talking about future movies we'll be watching about Sergei Eisenstein.
That guy you made up.
Yeah, who directed that film Battleship Potemkin. Which I'm sure you're very familiar with, RJ. There's like these steps, it's the Odessa steps sequence, where it's like it's one of those like classic examples of like not cinematography, but like of editing and montage, and where it's like this like baby carriage that's going down the steps. And this woman gets shot in the eye, and she screams, and the carriage comes crashing down as these like soldiers come marching down, firing guns on like unarmed people. That scene gets to be played out during the dream sequence when they're escaping the Ministry of Information, where like the woman with the vacuum cleaner, she gets shot in the eye, and the vacuum cleaner comes stumbling down the steps. Like I think I knew that scene like around that when I watched this movie for the first time like 15 years ago. I'd read that and was like, whatever, I'd never seen Battleship Potemkin. And there's like always like that always gets referenced in some movie or another as a parody, or like in the movie The Untouchables. It always just shows up. But in this one I was like, oh hey, it's that shot of the girl being shot through the glasses in the face. It's like the exact same thing. I'm like, oh, that Terry, he's just throwing in his little nods here and there. But
that wacky Uncle Terry.
Yeah. Yeah, I've got other thoughts, I guess, about the ending of the movie. I can just ask you now. So like was that like when you first watched this movie? Is that kind of when you went, wait a minute, that's not what would really happen. What's going on? And then like it starts getting more ridiculous, and then you realize, oh no, this is all a dream.
Actually. I wasn't aware that it soured at all until the newspaper thing, and then it was like, oh. But that's what I mean. Like watching it again, like I knew that's what happened, but I realized I had more of an appreciation for it. I was like, man, he really set that up really well. Because
Yep.
even though you should expect that because of the way that his character is, I think it's still a surprise.
Yeah. That whole like final sequence of that movie is so good because it like always gets me. Like I always forget like, oh yeah, Michael Palin gets shot in the head, and then he takes off his mask,
And then he takes the mask
then he
off.
takes his mask off, and then it's like, oh, now he's dead. But it's so good, and then you get the people like because they shot that in a like nuclear cooling plant, like an and so like which is like it's such a iconic scene I think in movies, that whole like that space, the questioning space, which like
Cerebrum.
yeah, well, yeah, exactly, it rips that off later on. But no, there was like a car commercial I think, or like some ad. It was like a gigantic inky black mass that people are doing battle with in the exact same type of space. I can't remember what it was, like I don't know, Audi or something like that. But it was a wholesale lifting of that Brazil space. Yep.
I don't. Yeah.
I don't know. That was like a few years ago, that ad. But yeah, no, and just like that whole ending, man. It's just like, oh, but it's like kind of like it could be conceived as like it's kind of an optimistic ending, that in the face of like a totalitarian regime that your body's destroyed but they can't take away your mind. It's kind of like that's sort of the thing with the difference between it and 1984, I guess, is that you really don't get the sense. What's his name in 1984? The main character in that, like he seems like you don't know if he's completely broken or not.
Yeah.
Like there's like the suggestion that, well, maybe he's not completely broken, but he's like, well, this is the way it's got to be, and like no one could stand up like to that like torture, and everyone's going to break. But like eventually, like the system can't withstand this, because people will eventually break down. A lot of people will be like, as long as the people are fed and like kind of reasonably comfortable, they'll be okay with things. But eventually people they'll always have to be oppressed. People always have to be oppressed because of imagination. So in this movie, you have this idea that guy's like, he managed to like escape in a real way, because there was like in this Brazil world, in this like England that's under this like terrible government, that's like there's nothing that exists outside of the city. It's just like a wasteland that's hidden behind billboards that we're not supposed to think about, even though it's like, well, eventually food's going to run out, and like you can't run away from your problems forever. You have this like thing that, well, the human imagination will get us out of this problem eventually, even though right now we don't see it. Right now it seems like this is the dreariest like thing that could possibly be there. You can either escape to your imagination to get away from this horrible world, even though your body is like dead, or your brain is completely detached from your like material body. You can beat the system, but at the same time, the system is going to be like, well, that's too unfortunate, and he got away from us. Yep, and that's the end of it. And you just have this man humming the song to himself in a giant nuclear reactor.
That's how I want to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fried.
Just completely cracked.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's such fun.
So much.
What a good movie,
Yeah.
hey?
And it's a Christmas movie.
It is, yeah. That's actually where I watched it. It wasn't last year. I think it was the year before at Christmas time.
Oh.
Because I heard it was a Christmas movie.
And it is of sorts.
It is?
Yeah.
Of sorts?
Of sorts. Yep. From right off the top of this movie, there's lots of ducks and some hilariously bad like slip scene where like the guy's walking in front of the televisions and then he just completely disappears and the window explodes.
That's so much fun.
It's like, oh boy, that's like a real obvious like right off the bat, like bad. They didn't even put the mannequin in to blow it up properly. What a hack! What a hack that Terry Gilliam is.
I'm fine with that.
Really exposed the business here.
Yeah.
But I love the interview with the like whatever member of government it is who refers to this terrorism as bad sportsmanship.
Yeah, I wrote that down too. That's so funny.
And then so like as far as like satire and stuff like that, the ongoing like joke of like all the propaganda posters in this movie, they're so excellent. Like loose talk is noose talk. I wrote down a few of them. There's really great ones. Suspicion breeds confidence. Yeah,
those, and then he has a lot of ongoing jokes, like the Christmas present. like where everyone's giving each other that stupid fucking present, like stuff like that.
Which then they use in National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation.
That's true.
Yep.
Yeah, it's because Chevy Chase knows what's up.
Yep, another Christmas movie. I made the note. It can't be that dark of a future if we're still watching Marx Brothers movies, right? Because it's like the there's this bits like where they're just watching Marx Brothers.
Right.
Because it's like I was trying to like place how this like this society got to where it was, and it's sort of like it's kind of like a retro future where like everything's kind of reverted to like it's like kind of like a 1950s look, but like the technology sort of like this like it's not steampunk, but it's almost like 80s cyberpunk aesthetic mixed in with this 80s like or 50s noir look.
But Jarrett, that's what we're doing right now.
Right now, I wish. I wish things looked like
steampunk.
Even is like no, not steampunk. Come on, no.
Oh, you mean 1950s? Fuck yeah.
Yeah.
You know how much
fedoras?
You know how much I want to be alive in the 50s, where you can alcohol and womanade as much as you want.
Smoke,
womanize,
smoke even? Everywhere. Drive without a seatbelt.
What a dream!
Mm-hmm.
What a dream! Hang out with Frank Sinatra and Dean Martin down at the Ritz.
Mm-hmm.
Ugh, my paradise.
What a life. I think the first bit that comes up next is the when I think about this movie is the thing with Ian Holm in The Office, and just like that big beautiful panning shot running down the halls of the Ministry of Records, all the people running around with him at the head of the thing, and going back into his office, and everyone just turns to watch Western TV, which is essentially what people do right now. They just
it is.
As soon as the boss is around, not there, they start watching YouTube videos. And or going to Facebook and check out their status updates in the news and get mad and comment about things they have no power over. But like, goddamn, I love Ian Holmes' reading of Mr. Lowry.
Mr. Lowry.
To have his deeper voice. Fuck, I still love that. Like, I hear that a lot. Mr. Lowry.
How wicked is it to have a movie with Ian Holm and Bob Hoskins?
Oh, okay.
What a dream.
We'll get there. We'll get there.
We'll get. We're not at Bob Hoskins. Okay.
Oh man. So the next big scene that I vividly remember always of this movie, where like it's like changed my perception of like situations. He's like waiters, and like this idea of like French waiters. That guy, 'cause he sounds like Tony Lee. The one like famous like voice actor, but it's not him. It's another guy. But just like his like just bursting in a frame beside people and going, between you and me, mademoiselle. I fucking love that. And then like after he serves everybody their like liquid glop on their plates, is just bon appetit. It's just so thunderous. He loves his fucking job. He loves the roles, and his anger, his seething anger when Lowry just refuses to say the number, and he's just like trying to politely say, "You have to tell me the number. That's the way the rules work." He's like, "Just order it for me. Just say the number for me." And he's so fucking mad. His disdain.
I've seen you get like that at the donut counter a few times.
Oh yeah, I start slamming the fist.
Yeah, bon appetit.
Yeah, a beautiful thing. So hey, my question for you this week, RJ, is: so do you think we'll realize we live in a dark future when it really comes, instead of just making jokes about how we live in the darkest timeline?
I think if you have to bring it up, it means it already happened.
Yeah, I don't know. See, like I was thinking about this recently. Someone was talking about how they went on a fast. And like they went to a grocery store, and like they hadn't eaten for like a week or two, and their eyes welled up when they saw these like piles of oranges and like all this food and stuff like that. And I'm like, so when people start like saying, "Oh man, the grocery store was like out of like a cauliflower again," or if suddenly food just starts like disappearing from grocery stores, and people are like, "Oh, I just can't find that," and they start shopping around. Like, will that be like when people go, "Oh, food's just not readily available at my fingertips at all times"? That's weird. And then will that be the tipping point, or like when internet becomes intermittent? Like there'll be certain times of the day where you just like can't go online because it's like, oh, we have to power down, we're power cycling, or oh hey, you can't run water all the time. Like all these little things, all these things of modernity that we've come to expect to always be there. Will those be the little signs? Will be the things that will be like maybe less subtle or less obvious, I guess, that'll maybe warn us, hey, maybe we're going down the wrong path.
I'm pretty sure we had to conserve water about a month ago, where we weren't allowed. We were rationing all our water use. So you tell me, Chief.
We got to do something about this mayor running this city.
Oh, Mayor Beerman, you find him down at the pub.
Okay, so now Bob Hoskins. So I forgot Bob Hoskins was in this movie. But,
what a treat!
Oh my God, he is so scary in this movie.
Fucking right, he is.
He is so much more frightening in this than like Long Good Friday.
That's actually what I was thinking the whole time he was on screen. Was your description of a British bulldog?
Yeah,
it's like that's what he is in this. He's so intimidating.
Oh yeah, and the fucking hats.
Oh, the biggest fucking bills. Beak. Yeah, the bill. Oh yeah. Man, it's like so good.
It's the most impractical bill. It's just like, how do you get into rooms with the bills that big? Like, it shouldn't come out that much past your face.
It's just like in The Sandlot when the kid shows up at the Sandlot and he's wearing the duck, like it's like a fishing or duck hunting hat, and the bill is like 2 feet long, and everyone's like, "What the?" And they're like, "Look at this nerd." You always notice a hat with a super long bill.
Well, yeah.
I don't know what it is. You just got to throw that in.
Yeah. Well, you look like an asshole. Or in the case of Bob Hoskins, it makes you even more like menacing and off-putting.
Oh, he's so scary.
So yeah, old Lowry's AC is all acting up. It's too hot in his building, and he puts an order in to get it fixed. And that's when Robert De Niro's character shows up to fix it himself. And of course, Bob Hoskins. And I can't remember the name of the actor who's like his peer. They're just like at the door, and like he's like, I don't know, I'll just say he's like got one of those Geordie accents that's like really unintelligible. Like you have no idea what he's saying, and it's even it's scarier of it. And Bob Hoskins is just like all smiles, and so
yeah, that's what got him that Mario movie, Super Mario Bros.
That's
too.
Right. He could really play frightening blue collar type of role. And then when the trump card of the like the work order gets brought up, and like the reaction and the seething rage, and then like the hilarious thing with like them out in the kind of like the outside of the apartment, like on the edge of this building, and just the as he gets carried away by Bob Hoskins. We'll be back. Oh my God, Bob!
It's great.
Yeah,
and it gives us one of the most primo examples of dump suits you'll ever see.
Yeah.
Later on,
man.
With Big Bob.
Yeah, so
and the dump suits.
Yeah, I don't like specifically go into this in my notes, but yeah, there's this scene where we get like that little bit of revenge against the system, I suppose. It's sort of like the Steve Austin with the beer bath sequence, where Robert De Niro shows up and he switches the sewage line with the AC line, which is what funnels into the oxygen suits that the maintenance men, Bob Hoskins and the other guy, are wearing, and the shit just fills up their clear plastic suits, kind of in the style of D pants from Tim and Eric, and then these men, like, I guess, explode in shit.
Classic.
Yeah, it's like kind of terrifying and hilarious all at the same time. Great cinema. Yeah,
love it.
Yeah. And then other thoughts here. Just a note about incompetent people in positions of power. Because Ian Holm, I forgot how good he is in this. Like, he plays that skeeviness so well, and he's very convincing in like the fact that he's getting Lowry to do everything for him, signing the notes that would get him in trouble. Because it's like, well, he just assumes that I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm smart enough to know when not to get involved and to let someone else do it. And it's like, that's so real, man. That's exactly what people do in this world.
That's what got him the role as Luigi in Super Mario Brothers. Knowing when to step aside.
Yeah, and his greatest role of all is clown in the film Spawn.
Ooh, yeah, he was good in that too.
Yeah.
People forget.
Yeah. And then we get like a weird like Empire Strikes Back throwback in that one dream sequence when after he's defeated the crazy samurai and the crazy battle with all the fire and stuff. He knocks off the mask, and under the mask, it's himself.
Oh. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking, I was like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah, I
But
might watch it again because it's like a dream. It's like a dream sequence
yeah.
where a man gets unmasked and it's himself. I'm like, oh, that's Empire Strikes Back.
Hmm.
And also got Ian Holm as like a brick sidewalk face. Remember in the dream sequence when he's
Oh,
he's
right.
going to float away and then the hands come out and grab him and it's like so good. It looks so great. And then it's the face. Sam, help me.
Man,
See,
that's how you talk sometimes.
It is. We have that strange scene with the telegram service.
Oh yeah,
That's something that has gone away. That's
super hot.
very. And then there's like the one part where I'm like, hey, we have like a kind of like a Time Bandits get back together here because we have the scene with Catherine Hellman, old Mona, Jim Broadbent, who is like the Beast because they were both like the Beast and wife that were on the ship in Time Bandits.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And Jack Purvis, one of the little people.
Excuse me?
The doctor, the plastic surgeon.
You are outrageous.
What's the RJ?
I don't even know what we're talking about. Do you mean Professor Slugworth from Harry Potter?
I have no idea. Maybe I don't know about that Harry Potter stuff. It's like Roseanne to me, man.
Oh, fuck you. You got no class, Jer.
No class.
No class.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just gonna say okay.
Okay then.
Okay.
Fine.
Yeah.
Back
Hey,
to
you know
sleep.
what I liked?
Back to sleep. What?
I liked when they set up the torture room and there's like the table with all the torture devices. There's just a big rubber ball, like a big rubber bouncing ball on the tray. And I think that's really funny.
Is that something his daughter was playing with?
Oh yeah, it was.
Yeah.
She was like bouncing the ball around.
Yeah.
I didn't even realize that. Yeah. I just thought it was super funny because I was like, yeah, you could do some damage with that.
Yeah. And of course, his daughter, one of his daughter's great lines, put it on, big boy. I won't look at your willy.
Excuse me? When does that happen?
When, oh my God, did you even watch this movie, RJ?
I did.
So Michael Palin's daughter. So remember, he gives him his suit to wear. He's like, oh, your suit. You can't go dressed like that. You have to like look respectable. Here, put on my suit. And then he's like, I gotta go. I gotta leave. And then he leaves. And then Jonathan Pryce is like looking down at the suit. And then like there's a shot to his daughter, and she's just like, put it on, big boy. I won't look at your willy.
Did I watch the same movie as you?
Oh my God, it's. RJ, you need to do a better job of this.
Okay, wait a second. Was the version you watched 2 hours and 23 minutes?
Correct.
Okay, maybe I did watch the same movie.
Okay.
Must have been farting or something. I don't know.
Anyway, backtracking a little bit. So after Lowry gets his promotion to the Ministry of Information, we get that great visual gag, I guess, of the fine line of an office and a jail cell. And it's such a well played bit because it's very, again, Monty Python like when he walks into his office and it's like there's like half a poster and there's like half a desk, and you realize that this was a full office that just has literally been cut down the middle. That is like exactly how they made the decision. They didn't repurpose it. They just said, oh, we'll put a wall right here, because that's how things work in society. And then we get introduced to his next door neighbor, Harvey Lime. Lime.
Okay.
Which is a throwback to the movie The Third Man, RJ, which you'll find out one day. But yeah, the actor Charles McEwen, who plays Harvey Lime, he is also one of the co-writers of Brazil. And he was like somewhat of a part-time collaborator with Terry Gilliam and those Python guys. But yeah, so then Michael Palin, he's got that blood-spattered apron, which is like, again, like his like whole performance and like the way they use him in this. I mean, he was like a pretty famous member of the group, and like I like how they've always underplayed Michael Palin's roles in like this and in Time Bandits. Like he's not a focal point in this; he's definitely more of a character, like a main character. Yep, and yeah, there's another great propaganda poster: "Consumers for Christ."
Ooh, I like that one.
Yeah, it's a real good one. And yeah, that writhing pile of blown up old lady customers in this movie, it's a lot more disturbing these days than it was, I think, when I first watched this movie. Maybe it's like in that higher res. after
Are you?
when the department store blows up,
Mm-hmm.
and like you just see like dozens of like old ladies all just like writhing around on the floor.
Right.
Yeah.
You didn't used to think that was upsetting at all, or?
No, it didn't faze me much at all.
Oh, you're such a monster, Jarrett.
It didn't like strike me as like, oh, terrorism. I didn't think about it in those terms. I was like, at that time I was like, what's a terror in 2000? The world's a different place, RJ,
Yeah, this
for many reasons.
post 9/11 world now, friend.
Oh, so you had to say it.
Yeah. That's what you were hinting at.
Yeah. And then there's another great bit I like with when it's Lowry and his lady making out at his mom's place, and there's like when the SWAT team comes blasting through, and one of them comes swinging through an open door, and it's like, but they still like kick the like door, like that, even though it's been open. It's like, oh, that seems unnecessary, but that's shock and awe. You come in blasting, you put people in their place.
I think that's really funny, and then I think his response is really funny. He's like, "She's dead."
Yeah.
No, it's fine. She's dead.
Yeah.
He's like putting pillows over her.
Mm-hmm.
Good stuff.
Laughs in a dark, dark world.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I'll try that one day. When next time someone breaks into my bedroom, just be like, "She's dead.
Mm-hmm.
She's dead."
So just a couple production notes I'll just mention out there. So this movie was co-written by Terry Gilliam, Charles McEwen, and Tom Stoppard, who I'm not sure if you're really familiar with him. He wrote the play Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Are Dead, which is sort of I'm not sure if you're familiar with that thing. It's like the inverse of Hamlet. It's like what were Rosencrantz and Guildenstern doing while Hamlet was happening? And it's like sort of this like drab, absurdist kind of existential comedy about these two characters who are just fated to die. That is their entire purpose, is to die off camera in Hamlet. And he also co-wrote that Academy Award-winning movie Shakespeare in Love, because Tom Stoppard loves him some Shakespeare and meta commentary.
Yeah. Ewy.
Oh, the movie's just a movie. It's like
what, Shakespeare in Love?
Yeah.
I watched it when did that come out? 2000?
97.
I watched it in 2000, so
Okay.
I have no opinions of that.
Yeah, it's whatever. It's a movie. It's not horrible. It's just a movie. Is it a best movie of the year? No. Anyway, and then there's like the whole like production history of this movie. Which is recapped in this is a pretty good. This is probably one of the better Blu-ray collections, DVD collections that Criterion had probably put out at this point. Like it was probably when it came out, probably for a while there, it was like probably one of the best movies you could come along with it, because it was so thorough in investigating the film's production and its like troubled history by putting together the 1 hour long documentary Battle of Brazil, which isn't like it's not a great documentary by any stretch, but it's just informative. And it comes down to Terry Gilliam's cut of this movie was 142 minutes. It was released internationally. People saw it. And then Universal bought the North American distribution rights. And then Sid Sheinberg, who was kind of like the super producer who was working with like Spielberg and stuff like that at the time. He could do no wrong. He saw this movie and he was like, nope, this isn't commercial at all. No one in America is going to get this movie. So we got to cut this from 142 minutes to like 94 minutes. Which, like, I've talked about this before. It's like the dumbest thing in the world. Like, why do studios think they should do this with movies that they acquire? Like, wasn't it fine in the first place? Like, why didn't you just go with that one? Anyway, so they had a very public spat about this. Like Terry Gilliam ran like a big like 1-page ad, I think in Variety, just like explaining the situation to the public. And then they wound up like reaching a compromise that Universal released a 132-minute cut of it, so it was like 10 minutes shorter, and that's what was released in theater. The Sid Sheinberg version, the 94-minute version, it aired on TV. So if people watch Brazil only on TV ever in their life, they were watching a movie that was like a full 40 minutes shorter, and it's completely gutted of its original ending.
Right.
It's a happy ending, RJ. Things work out great.
I've heard that actually.
Yeah, there's like, I think it pretty well just ends with, I did it. I've erased you. You're dead. And then they go off to the farm.
That's like, yeah, there's still like 30 minutes after that.
Yeah, no, like it's like all of like the
Yeah.
amazing, like it's I didn't watch it again this time around, but like it's terrible. On Letterboxd, there's a lot of people who log Brazil with like half-star reviews, 1-star reviews, and then they clarify, oh, this is for the Sid Sheinberg edition. I can't believe such a thing exists. Blah blah blah. It's like, well,
They're
now
they're
you're
breaking down the ratings.
exactly our most precious resource, the Letterboxd rating system.
Fuckers.
No laughing matter.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Don't they know? Didn't you tell them?
I guess I failed to. They don't listen to the show. That's my bad, I suppose. Anyway, so yeah, Brazil is awesome.
Yes,
I like
it
this
is.
movie a lot. But you know what, RJ? There's some people who dare hate Brazil.
I can see that, I guess. I don't agree with them.
You want to hear their thoughts?
Not really.
Oh well, you're going to anyway.
Oh.
Somebody named Brox gave this 1 star. Blah blah blah. I get it. 1984 reinterpreted as a comedy. Too bad none of it hits. The recording of the non-recorded call was the only worthwhile gag. Dystopian comedy is a done thing, and Brazil might have been one of the first ones to do it, but in a sea of commentary that has been made over and over, it is too blunt to make the cut. Compound this with the classic cop-out ending and a plot that meanders until the lead finally meets his weak love interest, and the entire thing seems pointless, but for enabling dumbass Redditors to point out that real life is becoming more and more like this. Idiocracy falls victim to this too, but saves itself by actually being funny and having a coherent plot. There are some people that I respect who regard this film highly, so maybe it's worth watching again when my head is less full of snot. But
What?
at present, I feel like I wasted enough of my time to justify wasting a little more by writing this review.
I think you wasted everybody else's time by being alive.
Oh,
Oh, what a hater, hey?
So what do you think of the romantic love interest stuff in Brazil?
It's what the movie is.
Right.
Like,
it's like,
why would you
there's-
take that out? Like, that's the movie.
Yeah, I think there's like a certain amount of disconnect. There's a wooing process.
Yeah. I feel like that is the movie. All this other stuff with like the government and all that, that's just the setting.
Yeah.
The movie is star-crossed lovers.
Yeah, to a degree. I mean, I thought like their interactions are pretty good. Like when they first meet up, she wants nothing to do with them. She like kicks him out of a moving vehicle. She has no time for him, but then he kind of wins her over by like through his acts. He actually does things even though they're reckless. And like ultimately, like I was thinking about the Lowry character, and like he like really kind of deserves what he gets to a certain degree because he's like so bad at doing everything. Like he's not a good rebel. He's not a good terrorist. Like he's too broad and like lazy about doing things. Like it would be like a real like it's like if a real person decided to do this stuff, they'd get caught and then they'd be executed or whatever. They'd be destroyed in the society. And it's not fair, but I mean, in the confines of the world's logic, I mean, he is this like hapless dreamer being ground down into paste in this dreary dystopian future.
Ain't that a bitch?
Yeah, and oh man, like it's pretty brutal too, because like when he gets black bagged in the bed with her, and then you hear the gunfire, and then there's this whole thing of like, oh, she's dead. Oh, it's confusing because she died a second time. And it's like, well, there you go. She actually is dead, and it's like, well, that's depressing. You don't even get to see anything about that, and it's just like, yep, that's just life in this crappy world, and it's been set up the whole time.
That's life in this world too.
Yep.
Baby.
Well, let's see what does P. Steed have to say about this movie. Oh, he gave it 1 star. The trouble with a film set in the future is that when you are already living in that future and it is nothing like the film imagines, then it dates very quickly. This film,
shut up.
This design was too busy. Reminded me a bit of Wes Anderson, but not as cute. I found it unwatchable, to be honest.
Jesus.
Oh my god, that is like the most fucking stupid thing I've ever read.
That's like watching Back to the Future and being like, oh my god, that's not the way the world is right now.
Yeah.
Oh, this movie fucking blows.
It dates very quickly. It's like, if you just took off that like sometime in the 20th century thing, like who knows? Like things could like revert. Like things would look older and crappier. That's kind of like Children of Men. Things like stop progressing because there's no more like resources to like build upon. So you start falling back and things start turning into like shitty refugee land. And in this world, they're like trying to mask the refugee-ness of things. Because like when there's like the scenes like where they're going down to like to the estates and to like kind of like the high rises and stuff like that, and like everything's like nuclearly powered. It's like all crappy. Like poor people look like they're genuinely poor, and like there's like there's a lower class and a middle class. It's sort of like it's a mixed mishmash of like dark futures, and neither of them are good, and they're all compromised. But yeah, I mean, like they're masking the fact that everything's gone to shit, and they're doing it in the proper British way. Which Terry Gilliam, being an American filmmaker making stuff in England, he probably finds like that stiff upper lipness of the British is like a point of this film. Like he's playing with that Britishness, and like that's where he finds the comedy. That's like all goddamn Monty Python is. But hey,
yeah,
there you go. One last one here from Jeremy Richard. 1 star. To my estimation, there isn't another film director working today that gets more undeserved critical attention than Terry Gilliam. That is like, and this guy wrote this in 2014. That is like so not true. I don't think people don't talk about Terry Gilliam the way they used to. Case in point, Brazil, which has received overwhelming critical praise, placement on several best of 80s films lists, and not one but 4 fucking Criterion Collection releases. Having finally gotten around to watching this film for the first time, I have no inkling whatsoever as to what all the fuss is about. Brazil is nothing more than a criminally overlong, drab, ugly, dull, tedious exercise to sit through. The film is set in a dystopian future, just like practically every other Gilliam film, and its story revolves around a lower-level government employee working for Ministry of Information who discovers that a girl he's been having frequent dreams about is, in fact, a real person. So he sets off to try and rescue her, as she's a wanted individual by the same government agency he happens to be working for. The film is a chore to sit through at its 142 minutes running time. I sort of wish I'd watched the much maligned Love Conquers All version of the film, which is apparently only 94 minutes long. At least this would have saved me the extra 48 minutes of precious time I wasted sitting through this entire mess. Gilliam's films tend to get a lot of praise for its visual presentation, but there's nothing pretty or interesting to see in this film because pretty means visual, I guess. In fact, it's remarkably hideous. Everything from the costumes to the sets and production designs are absolutely dreadful. The film score by Michael Kamen has a lot of the typical sound of film scores of the 1980s. Oh my god. Does it really? The fucking like bar mitzvah music. That's right. Every 80s movie had that music score. With an over-reliance on horns, and it's one of the first soundtracks in a long time that's been noticeably bad.
First soundtracks in a long time of when? Since he wrote this or since the movie came out?
So bad, I had the urge to play the film on mute. Maybe this way I could have avoided the whiny dribble of the main character whose everly increasing complaint made me want to punch him in the face repeatedly. The film's lone bright spot is the character Archibald Harry Tuttle, as played by Robert De Niro. Unfortunately, Robert De Niro's appearances in the film are few and far between, and he's frustratingly underutilized. The only way I'll revisit this film is that the Ministry of Information becomes a real entity and forces me to sit through it again as a means of torture.
Oh, he take that, Terry Gilliam.
I don't know if you've noticed the theme here of like we now talked about 51 movies. It seems like these people who hate these movies, they always try to get themselves over. They're always like trying to just get that last little bit of like, I'm so witty, look at me. And it's like, to what notice? It's like what they all want to be like fucking Leonard Maltin or some shit, some fucking hack film critic.
It's just, it amazes me. Like, I mean, it's obvious, but it's like he just doesn't get it, hey? And like, I don't think it's an overtly like complex movie. Like,
no,
like
it's not.
It's not challenging you that much. Like he's like, oh, it's drab and it looks bad. It's like, hey, dude, that's what it's supposed to look like.
Yeah.
Like,
and in fact, it looks amazing. Like it looks so good. Like goddamn, the costumes and the designs and the aesthetics, like the walls and the grays match the goddamn suits that people are wearing, the clothing. Like everything is like, it's so figured out. It's like, it's a fantastic. Like this goes back to like, so Terry Gilliam. I mean, he's a cartoonist, animator. who also RJ loves Fellini.
Fuck you. Nobody loves Fellini.
Oh, buddy, when we watched 8.5, Terry Gilliam's got like a 15-minute interview about how much he loves 8.5, and it's his favorite movie of all time.
8.5 is good though.
Okay, it's Fellini. So anyway,
that's the only one I like.
But like, I mean, it's a visual thing. Like they're both like cartoonists, and which I guess maybe is something like I respond to a bit myself. But yeah, no, he's like he's a visual guy, and he knows exactly what he wants everything to look like. And then yeah, like goddamn that thing, the score. We didn't even talk about the score talking about this movie. The score is like so damn good. Like that last piece of music that's playing over the credits, which don't go to black. It just lets you linger over this last final image. Like goddamn. And it's like so good, so moving. It's used like inventively, constantly in different ways, in a way that like movies from the 80s simply don't do. It's actually very like sophisticated to pull it off that way and do it the way they did it. Yeah, I don't know. That's some bullshit right there. Calling into question the score. I mean, if you don't like that sound, I guess this movie would probably be pretty annoying. But I don't know. That's your deal, I suppose.
I don't know. It sounds a little too much like it was from the 80s for me.
Yeah. What a weird idea. Something made in 1985.
Yeah.
Anyway, I don't know.
Speaking of 80s, I remember I wrote something where I like it was like when he's first daydreaming in the cloud sets.
Yeah.
And I was like practical daydreams because it was like practical effects and daydreams. And then I was like, oh, that'd be a great name for a post-punk band. Practical Daydreams. That's very 80s. Somebody out there will get that.
That could be a prog rock band.
Somebody will get that.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that guy's wrong. He doesn't get it, which sucks for him because he's missing out on good movies, I think.
Yeah, I don't know. But you know, it's like I go and click on these people's things to see like what do they consider good movies. And it's not like they don't like good movies, but then once in a while you'll see, oh, they gave Old School 4 stars. And I go, yeah. And then this in Brazil's 1 star, huh?
Yeah, and their favorite movie is Flight with Denzel Washington.
Any last thoughts?
Nope. It's a pretty good movie. Everybody likes it.
Yep.
Or should.
And as time goes on, more and more actors in this movie die.
More and more.
Watch out, Bobby.
Bob who? Oh, Bob De Niro?
Yeah.
Oh, whatever. He's a fucking weird anti-vaxxer now. So
yeah, I know you're right. He can't die soon enough.
Yeah, whatever. Like he's a dink.
It's like anyway, hey, we're not that podcast. Well, that's it, folks. After the break, I will be left a pile of immobile goo, but my brain will live on in my own dreamscape, and RJ will lay dead on the floor, shot.
I want to be the jelly body that falls out of the
coffin. Oh, yeah. I wanted to bring that up. Yeah, whatever her name is. More complication. And a small complication.
Can I? I'll be her.
You'll be the goo, the gelatinous goo.
Yeah, I'll be the jelly body. I'm cool with that.